You're listening to Ask When, the podcast. Folks from all walks of life talk about their daily hustle and bustle, living and celebrating life, sharing tips on becoming champions, especially for those who are muscling mental and physical disabilities. Ask When, the podcast, with your host, who has mustered over 30 years living with cerebral palsy and going strong, author and cerebral palsy advocate Wynn Charles. Ask When, the podcast starts right now.
Welcome to Ask When, everyone. This afternoon I have Meg with me, and so I'm going to let Meg take it away and share her story and her wisdom.
Hey, how are you today? Thank you for having me. My name is Meg Watt, and I have had a very crazy life. I've done a lot of fun things, some not so fun things too, but I think one of those interesting things that I've done is that I'm a book reviewer, and in doing so, I've created a network of female and one male book reviewer on the Lit Buzz. So we review hundreds of books a year for free, just for authors who want to get their book out there.
Now, are we talking about traditionally published or self-published, or what's the deal?
It's actually a combination. In fact, we have some hybrid authors as well. But we definitely publish reviews on well-known authors, and we also publish probably, I would say, 70% of our reviews are books that are indie or hybridized authors. So they're traditionally published and they're indie published.
And so that being said, what has been one of the favorite books you've reviewed?
Oh, that's a hard question. I guess you'd have to break it down by genre. That's like asking which of my kids is my favorite. I've literally read thousands of books. I read about 250 books a year. And I would say that depending on my mood, I have varied interests. So right now, I'm kind of in a historical fiction kick. I've been reading a lot of historical fiction. But if you had asked me the same question a year ago, I was very much into paranormal romance. And a year before that, I was very much chicklet centered. A favorite series of mine would be the Revelation series by Randy Cooley Wilson. It's a lot of fun to read. My favorite historical fiction, probably right to this moment, is Before We Were Yours by Lisa Wingate. But it really depends on, I think it kind of depends on what's happening in my own life. Sometimes I want to read something light and fun. Soraya Wilson has a series called The Royals of Montera, and that's sort of my guilty pleasure if I need to read something that'll cleanse my palate and that I'll enjoy, because her characters are fun. But yeah, it really depends on my mood. I'm very blessed. I have a team of, on average, between 9 and 12 reviewers that read all kinds of books. So we cover, I would say, pretty much every genre and subgenre. We read LGBTQ books. We have one guy. He reads a pretty diverse selection of stuff that our other reviewers haven't maybe touched on. We've done gardening books and just about anything you can imagine has made its way to Lit Buzz at some point.
And so, Megan, if you had to move house and only take 5 things with you, for the exception of your family and your laptop, what would they be?
5 things. My phone. Does peripherals count? Do I have to count cords? Chargers.
Chargers.
I would take lipstick. I pretty much always have lipstick and moisturizer. And pictures. I would somehow put them all on a drive or something. I have thousands of pictures. I hoard them. If I have my phone, I have my books. So it's a little bit of a cheat.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little bit of a cheat. And if your best friend was going to write a book about you, what would the title be?
My best friend would probably say I'm a survivor. She always thinks that she's amazed at the things that I accomplish and the way I turn things around. We've had some really catastrophic tragedies in my family. And through all of those things, I have found a way to do something positive with them, make things better for other people. And I like to believe I instilled that in my children as well. So, yeah, I would say probably something along those lines.
So she would probably have the title be something with the word survivor in it.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, she is, I am a product of foster to adopt, and I had a very good childhood thanks to the mother who adopted me. But I lost her and then my younger brother within 10 months of each other. My brother died in a very tragic carbon monoxide accident. And I was a 9/11 reporter.
You did tell me that. You did tell me that on Facebook. Oh my goodness. Meg, the reason why I wanted to go into journalism is because of 9/11. Is because of 9/11, and I wanted so badly, and I'm still obtaining it. I'm still obtaining my journalism degree because I want to go, and I was set on the wrong path. I was nothing against my mom. I love her dearly, but she set me on the path of unsuccessful education in the classroom, and I just wanted to go into journalism like it's no tomorrow. I'm chomping at the bit to finish my journalism degree, and the reason what stood me up inside is seeing how the first responders on 9/11 handled the situation, and how the journalists in New York handled the situation. And where were you when you were responding for 9/11? Were you a journalist, or were you somewhere else in that field?
I was actually a journalist. I was a beat reporter, and I was green. I had just started a few months before. I grew up in New York. My whole life, my whole childhood was New York, and I had moved to the Poconos, which is an area in northeast Pennsylvania, which is about an hour and a half outside of Manhattan. So it's actually a really big like a bedroom community for New York. A lot of people buy houses in the Poconos, and their families stay there and go to school there, and the parents go to work in the city. And so on 9/11, we had 16,000 people who left to commute on the buses alone. That doesn't count the people who drove in themselves or who are already spending the night in the city just on that morning. So I went to the bus depot when they started turning people away from the city, when they closed the Lincoln Tunnel, basically. And if you've ever been in the Lincoln Tunnel, for people who have, there's this curve heading into the Lincoln Tunnel from New Jersey, and it is the best view of Manhattan anywhere. I mean, you can see the whole expanse. And the first bus that was at the Lincoln Tunnel was stuck on this curve as the towers fell. You had 65 people on this bus from all walks of life, who then started holding hands and praying together, because they didn't know what was happening, and they didn't know. I mean, they were watching this, and listening to it and seeing it firsthand. The buses ended up getting turned around, and this bus came back, and I ended up interviewing these people who were trying to get into the city to go to work or whatever they were trying to do, and just talk to them about what they saw firsthand. That was the only time in about 100 years that my publication put out a second, like an afternoon edition of the newspaper. And everything happened at 9:30 in the morning. By 4:00 we had an edition of the paper on newsstands that people could get. But interestingly, years later, I went to an auction, and somebody had a pile of newspapers that they were auctioning, and on top of the pile was my story. The paper or the article I had written was like the first paper you could see. But that was a week of 16-hour days, and most of the reason that I was doing what I was doing was that I had two small children, so I didn't know what was going to happen to their world. But more importantly, I had friends that were missing. So, I had the best chance of getting information about their whereabouts by going to work. The next couple months was basically the hardest of my journalism career. I mean, I went to countless memorials. Up until December, actually, I was going to memorials. And it's very hard to stay positive in that sort of an environment. And in fact, it's very similar to now. I tell my children this is their 9/11 experience, what we're going through now, because it's a lot of unanswered questions and uncertainty. But I felt like I was doing something bigger than myself by helping to get as much information out as I could.
And I read something the other day as we sit here on Tuesday, April 8th. Sorry, I meant to say April 8th, not March 8th, 2020. And I read something the other day that the coronavirus has killed more people than were killed in 9/11 attacks.
Yep.
And this is the next generation's 9/11, and we all sat through 9/11, and this is why I am so passionate about journalism and so passionate about symptom-based psychology, because I want to help people. I was explaining, Megan, when you were dropping in and out, that people are thanking the restaurant workers, the doctors and nurses, the care. Well, they're not even care providers. They're they're thanking the pharmacists. But what about the journalists who are on the front lines doing every small beat they can, and including the citizen journalists like myself, bringing you guys hope? And what about the care providers caring for the disabled? I mean, we're all in this together, you guys. You forget that behind the scenes, these heroes, i.e., the journalists, i.e., the care providers, don't wear capes. Don't wear capes. They don't wear masks over their faces unless they have to. But I just feel like journalism now is so important.
I couldn't agree more. Some of my very best friends in the entire world are still in journalism, and one of them works for I believe the Fox affiliate in New York City, and she posted a picture yesterday of herself at work, out on the street doing something with a mask on. And she said, I never saw this for myself. I've been a reporter through such horrendous things, and I never thought that there'd be a day where I'd have to wear a mask to work as a reporter. But they are going into those dangerous places, and they are still getting the word out. There's not a lot of talk about it because there's been so many things going on, but there was a really tragic subway fire in Manhattan last week, and a really heroic subway driver saved like 9 lives because he got people out of the tunnels and then succumbed to the fumes himself and passed away. And you have reporters going to these places where they don't know what caused this or why it's happening, but they're still getting that information out there to the people because that's what you do. That's what you sign on for as a reporter.
Yes.
Likewise, you have care workers who are going and still going and taking care of people in their homes and doing deliveries, and it's everyday people too that are stepping up. In my community here, the people who run our local farmers market realized there was going to be a real disparity in food for people who couldn't work, and or even for people who normally had Meals on Wheels, things like that, because there's less availability. So they took it upon themselves. They're delivering 1,600 meals to people's homes, just organizing it themselves. They are working in a church kitchen so that they're using a commercial kitchen and being as safe as humanly possible. But they're putting themselves at risk to make sure that people in their community are eating. And that's the everyday hero that we should be talking about, because I live in Pittsburgh. In Pittsburgh, I don't know if you're familiar, but Mr. Rogers was from Pittsburgh, so yeah. It's a big deal here.
Yeah.
So, one of his most famous sayings is, look for the helpers. And, I can't stress enough how everybody should be looking for the helpers, because there are people who are, whether they're paid or unpaid, are out there and they're doing what they can to make sure that you can remain safe, but you can also remain fed or informed or, receive your treatment for dialysis or whatever it is that they do every day. And those are the people that we really need to make sure we're thanking.
And also, the work I'm doing, you guys, I am still doing the work that I was previously doing, even on a bigger scale now, because I know that you guys follow me. I know that you guys need hope, but at the same time, I hate to put this on you guys, and I hate to cry with Megan, but at the same time, when you look at who was there on 9/11 and who is there spreading the good news in the time of uncertainty, um, you guys have to look at it at a bigger perspective. You guys have to think about who is doing what they can to help you guys understand the stories of hope, understand the stories of sacrifice, under getting everyone on my podcast in particular to bring you education, to bring you stories of other people's podcasts so you guys can at least have hope so we can get away from the depressing news. And yet I am not seeing I'm seeing memes going around Facebook saying thank you to our doctors, thank you to our pharmacists, thank you to our grocery store workers, and that's all well and fine. But Jesus, you guys, I don't know what to do next. Megan and I don't know what to do next as journalists. Megan now is a book reviewer, but
I actually still also have a news site.
yeah,
I do still. I actually recently started an online newspaper for my region of Pittsburgh. So I I've remained a journalist through and through. But that's the thing, that I think that is something that's, I think for you to be a really true journalist, you have to have a spirit of service. You have to want to do the greater good. And that's exactly what you're doing, with this, helping people to have an outlet when, you know, when you don't know what to think or what to say and you have nowhere to go. Helplessness is a really dangerous thing. And giving people a voice, and also having someone speak on their behalf, giving them something to look forward to. I mean, for Litbuzz, I got together with a bunch of authors, and every day we just started doing a Facebook Live just to give something entertaining and fun to talk about. That wasn't the stress of wondering when this will end and, who will know and, waiting for those press briefings, which are so painful, I think, for a lot of people, especially people who have mental health issues. It's a very difficult time. So giving people those opportunities to escape for a minute and think about something else, that is a major service, and that falls into that, look for the helpers. You're a helper.
Well, I try to be, you guys, but at the same time, I want you guys to start thinking outside the box and start thinking to thank the journalists, thinking to thank the respite care workers, and thinking to thank those who are sacrificing to take care of others right now, whether it's family doing it, or whether it's aides doing it, or whether it's a journalist doing it. And I don't care what you have to do. I will still sit there and do this. But I just want you guys to wake up and smell the roses for every single journalist out there. I don't care if they work for CNN. I don't care. But because the journalism field is getting attacked by the president, thank you very much, And then I said, that's all I'll say about that. But journalism is difficult. Being a journalism student is difficult. Being a citizen journalist is difficult. Megan will tell you that. Megan shared a story about 9/11, and this will be ever etched in my mind, and the epidemic will ever be etched in my mind, and so will 9/11. And by the time this is over, I will come out stronger with a journalism degree. But still, you guys, you have to really understand what all these journalists are doing and all these unsung heroes are doing. It's not all about the doctors, the nurses, the pharmacists, the ventilated techs, the x-ray techs. It's not all about those. And I am still doing this for you guys, but at the same time, you gotta step up and help me out here and share this podcast and share the words of encouragement. So, Megan, what is your morning routine if you have one?
I do have one. I'm a creature of habit, but it's pretty boring, actually. I get up in the morning and I leave a bottle of water for myself next to my bed. Well, I have a bottle that I'm refilling, and I take my morning medication, and I have Google go through my morning routine. So that includes it goes through news from sites that I follow. I tend to listen to BBC and Reuters these days for news, just because I think that they are giving the clearest picture of what's going on. I usually look at social media. I check my email. Then I go and take a shower and do all the normal things that people do during the day. I am lucky that I work from home to begin with. So thankfully, that part of my life hasn't changed drastically. But I will say having a house full of people does. You change your schedule based on who's with you. I also have I have two dogs, and I have a bulldog who's kind of a bratty toddler. So usually somewhere in the course of this, either she's sleeping and refuses to get up.
Yes. Yes.
Or she decides that at that exact moment she needs to go outside right now. So somewhere in the course of my schedule, she'll bust in and and take over.
Exactly. And so, Megan, as we wrap this interview up, do you have any questions for me?
I think that we've covered a lot in this call, but if you could do one thing right now for the world that does not involve curing COVID-19, because I feel like that's what everyone would say, what would you do?
I would give everyone a big physical hug. And when I say physical, I mean physical. And because as you guys know, I've had the struggle bus come into my life since May 19th. Sorry. And actually, since the week of Mother's Day, the struggle bus started. The struggle bus stopped on May 19th and then picks up again. And then, so I've been struggling since the end of May, the beginning of 2020, and so I just would, if I could do one thing in this world right now, I would give people a big giant hug and then put boots on the ground to rescue all my educator friends and all my journalist friends and say, how can I help? And give them, give the educators out there, give the aides out there who are not my own, take care of the aides, let them get a break, let the journalists get a break, let the teachers get a break, because I've talked to so many teachers all across the country, including dear friends of mine, and they're saying that online learning for them is a challenge, and they're saying the kids want them back in the classroom. The kids want them to be back in. The kids want to be back in the classroom. So first of all, I would give people a big hug. Second of all, I would put boots on the ground again in education, boots on the ground again in journalism, and say, how can I help? What can I do to teach me more about journalism than education? And I'll take over your shifts and do it to the best of my abilities, because right now I think everyone's emotionally exhausted.
That's the truth.
I think, and I'm not the only one that feels this. Everyone is emotionally exhausted. So, first of all, as I said, I would give people a hug. Second of all, I would say, you take the day off. I'll take over your job. I'll take over your job, because people need a helping hand. They don't need to be pushed down farther than they actually are. And people that know me personally, who listen to this podcast, know exactly why I'm saying that. And so I would honestly give people a hug and say, let me take over your job for at least 2 days. I'm thinking I would do 2 week stints at each job so that people would have the time they need. And I would also try and give people a spa day, because self-care is number one, you guys. And if you are emotionally exhausted, you can't do your job. So while I'm doing your job, basically you go and figure out what you're going to do and get self-care. And so that's what I would do. First, I would give people a hug. Second, I would say, how could I help you in the workplace?
I think that if we could just make that happen, everybody would be in a much better place right now.
Yeah, because we all need help. We
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 do.
all need help, you guys. I need help. Megan needs help, and we all need help, you guys. So, Megan, where can people find you, and where can people get a hold of you if they want a book review? And where could people find you if they want to see your work in journalism?
So if they want to find us for about books in any capacity, the website is lit.buzz. So it's www.lit.buzz. And on social media, anywhere, if you do at the Lit Buzz, you'll find us. Personally, I'm known as the Queen Bee on Lit Buzz, so if you look for Meg or Queen Bee, you'll find me. And in general on social media, you can find me at not Meg A Wattage. So Meg A Watt is what people call me because my name is Meg A Watt. But they can also find me at www.megawattpr.com. I'm really happy to help people figure out how to best tell their story, but also to share my own. I have been through a lot of hard things, but I've also been very blessed in my life, and I'm at that point in my life where I'd like to share that. So whether you need a review or you want to, figure out how to traverse, a world post-COVID-19, I'm here for you.
Well, I appreciate that, Megan, and I'm here for you guys too. I may be a little bit of a buck lately, but I'm here for you guys too if you need advice post-COVID-19 on how to get yourself back up onto your feet and how to get your disabled family member back up onto your feet. Please reach out. And yes, I'm going strong with my journalism degree. The graduation date is now, my own graduation date is now looking like April 4th, 2022. And if that date changes, I'll let you guys know. But I'm here for you guys. And of course, Megan is here for you too. So reach out and we'll have all of Megan's information in the show notes. Thanks, you guys. Bye.
You just listened to Ask Win, the podcast. To become a guest in the show, visit our website at askwin.weebly.com or call 816-591-3399. Just look for Danielle. Connect with Win on Twitter at WinKellyCharles and like our Facebook page at Butterflies of Wisdom. You can also purchase Win's book through Amazon.com or get a copy of the audiobook through Audible. Ask Win, the podcast.